Welcome, everyone. Many people want better relationships. They want conversations that feel natural. They want to feel comfortable with others. And they want to feel understood. But something confusing often happens. People talk to others every day. They send messages. They meet colleagues. They see family members. And still, many people quietly feel disconnected. Sometimes conversations feel short. Sometimes they feel polite but empty. Sometimes people leave a conversation and feel nothing really happened. This experience is very common today. A person can have many contacts, many numbers in their phone, many online connections, but real connection can still feel rare. So an important question appears. Why do relationships sometimes feel difficult, even though humans are naturally social? The answer is not simply personality. It is also connected to attention, modern habits, and the way the human brain reacts to social interaction. To understand this better, we need to start with a simple idea. Human beings are built for connection. For thousands of years, survival depended on cooperation. People lived in small groups, they worked together, and they shared resources. The human brain slowly adapted to this environment and became very sensitive to social signals such as a small smile, eye contact, or tone of voice. These signals help the brain answer an important question. Is this person safe? When the brain receives positive signals, it relaxes. Trust begins to appear, and connection becomes easier. But modern communication environments are different from older human environments. Today, communication often happens through screens. Messages replace conversations. Short texts replace voice tone, and reactions replace expressions. Connection still exists, but the signals the brain receives are smaller and weaker, and this slowly changes how relationships grow. To understand this even better, we need to look at how the brain processes social information. The brain constantly looks for social signals. Psychologists sometimes describe this process as social scanning. Without thinking about it, the brain observes many small details, such as facial expressions, voice rhythm, and body language. These details help the brain understand emotion and also help it predict how another person might react. But when communication happens through digital messages, most of these signals disappear. A message only contains words. It does not contain voice tone, and it does not contain facial expression. Because of this, the brain receives incomplete information, and this can create distance between people, even when the conversation is friendly. Another important element is attention. Attention is one of the brain's most valuable resources, and the brain cannot focus deeply on many things at the same time. But modern environments constantly compete for attention. Phones vibrate, applications send notifications, and videos start automatically. Each interruption forces the brain to move attention from one place to another. Scientists sometimes call this attention switching. Attention switching consumes mental energy, and when attention becomes unstable, conversations become weaker. The body may be present, but the mind moves somewhere else. Real connection usually requires stable attention, and even short moments of focused attention can change the quality of a conversation. This becomes clearer when we look at everyday situations. Imagine a simple conversation during lunch. Two people sit together and talk about work or daily life. The conversation begins normally. Then a phone vibrates. One person quickly checks the screen. It takes only a few seconds, But the brain notices the interruption, and the conversation loses its rhythm for a moment before it continues again. These interruptions seem small, but when they happen many times, they slowly change the quality of communication. Another example appears during group meetings. Several people sit together, and everyone is present physically. But sometimes attention is divided. Some people think about emails, while others think about tasks waiting later in the day. The conversation continues, but attention is not fully shared, and this can make interactions feel shallow. Another situation happens online. People communicate through short messages. The conversation may include emojis or quick reactions. These tools help communication, but they cannot fully replace tone of voice or facial expressions. Because of this, misunderstandings sometimes appear more easily. A short message can feel cold, unclear, or distant, even when the intention was friendly, because the brain simply does not receive enough emotional information. But modern life introduces another quiet challenge: comparison. People see many images of social life every day. Photos of friends together, videos of celebrations, and moments of laughter appear everywhere. But these images usually show the most positive moments. They do not show the quiet parts of relationships. They do not show normal silence. They do not show small disagreements. Because of this, the brain may create unrealistic expectations. It may seem that other people have perfect friendships or stronger connections, but most relationships in real life are simple and gradual. They grow slowly through repeated contact. Another important factor is emotional safety. People connect more easily when they feel accepted. Acceptance allows honesty. It allows small imperfections. It allows natural conversation. But when people fear judgment, communication becomes cautious. They choose safe words and they avoid deeper topics. The conversation stays comfortable but not very meaningful. This does not mean people are unfriendly. It simply means emotional safety has not fully appeared yet. Trust needs time. The brain slowly learns which environments feel safe. It develops through repeated positive interactions. So what actually helps relationships grow? Research in psychology often shows that relationships grow through small, consistent interactions, rather than dramatic moments. Small daily exchanges matter. Short greetings, small questions, and simple observations may appear insignificant, but the brain remembers familiarity. The more often two people interact, the more comfortable the brain becomes. Another quiet element is listening. Listening is more complex than many people think. Many people listen while preparing their next response. But deeper listening works differently. The brain focuses fully on the other person's words, noticing tone, pauses, and emotional signals. This kind of listening often changes the feeling of a conversation. The other person feels seen, and this feeling naturally strengthens connection. Another factor is emotional energy. When people are tired or stressed, social interaction requires more effort. The brain protects its energy and prefers shorter conversations with less emotional complexity. This is a normal biological reaction. Mental fatigue affects communication, and sometimes a conversation feels difficult not because of the other person, but because the brain itself is tired. When energy returns, communication often becomes easier again. Environment also plays a role. Physical spaces influence relationships. Places where people meet regularly often create stronger connections, such as a familiar cafe, a shared workspace, or a regular activity. Repeated environments allow familiarity to grow. The brain becomes comfortable with predictable social spaces, and this comfort makes connection easier. There is also one small idea that many psychologists observe again and again. People feel closer to those who show genuine curiosity. Not performance, not impressive stories, curiosity. When someone asks simple, real questions, something interesting happens. The conversation becomes more alive. The other person feels invited to share, and the brain feels noticed. For example, someone might ask what part of your work you enjoy the most, what made you interested in that, or how you learned that skill. These questions are simple, but they open space for real conversation. They move the interaction slightly deeper, and most people enjoy speaking about experiences that matter to them. Psychologists sometimes describe this as expansion. A conversation slowly expands when curiosity appears. It moves beyond basic information, and connection begins to grow. So if there is one small idea to remember, it may be this: good conversations grow when attention and curiosity meet. Attention means being mentally present. Curiosity means showing interest in another person's world. When these two elements appear together, something subtle changes. The conversation becomes more human, more relaxed, more natural, and often connection begins quietly from that point. And when we look at relationships this way, something interesting becomes clear. Relationships rarely appear suddenly. They develop slowly, through attention. Through many small signals, the brain gradually understands. Modern life sometimes hides these signals behind speed and distraction. Communication becomes faster. Attention becomes divided. Expectations become influenced by images and comparisons. But the basic human need for connection has not changed. The brain still searches for recognition, for understanding, for moments of shared attention. And sometimes improving social life does not require dramatic change. Sometimes it begins with something very small, a moment of full attention, and one simple question asked with real curiosity. Because very often, the door to connection opens in the same quiet way. Someone feels that you are truly interested in them, and from there, conversations become easier, and social life begins to grow, one simple interaction at a time.